All right, you ready to get started? This edition of the Rusty Humphries Rebellion is brought to you by Australian Dream Arthritis Pain Relief Cream. Yes, and back pain relief cream. It's the good stuff. It's the stuff that you go in the store, you're in pain, and you go, ow, but then you don't want to smell like grandma and everything. Don't worry. Australian Dream doesn't burn. It doesn't smell. It's not greasy. It actually works. And it's available at Walmart, Walgreens, and all great retailers. Do yourself a favor. Go get it now. And if it's not at your store, well, turn around and don't just walk out. Leave the stuff in the store and leave. We got a great show for you. You don't want to miss it. Milo Yiannopouios will be here in just a moment. Next, here on the Rusty Humphries Rebellion.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. That's a direct order. Do it now.
He's been put down, ripped off, cut open. Now he's unleashed. Unleashed. The American insurgency starts now. This is Rusty Humphries Rebellion Radio.
Okay, he's only stood me up twice in a row.
Oh, stop it.
It's no big deal. It's no big deal. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Milo Yiannopouios is here. Milo, how are you?
That time I spent today having my hair and makeup done perfectly for you, so that you'd be completely mesmerized by my beauty and forget that yes, I did. I'm sorry to say, stand you up twice.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Did you have a hot date or something?
It's something I only do to white guys. If it makes you feel any better.
Okay, so it was a hot date.
Not exclusive to you. No, it wasn't a hot date.
Oh.
We are in the process of setting up Milo Inc., which you may have heard of by now, which is this wonderful new media company around me to manage my tours, my books, all the rest of it. And we are horribly understaffed. None of which is the remotest excuse for disrespecting one of my favorite people on the internet. So I'm very, very sorry to have done that to you twice. But I am here now, and I'm here in full contrition, begging for your...
You don't have to. I'm just giving you a hard time, and I appreciate it. By the way, another thing you were supposed to do, I was supposed to get a copy of the book, autographed and sent. That hasn't shown up either, but...
You have got your... Give me a copy of the book.
No,
I'm going to sign it.
It's okay. It's Milo.
This is unacceptable.
I've already paid full retail price. I bought it.
Well, fine. Then I'm going to send you $20 inside the book, okay? All right, look.
No. I'm teasing you. Milo, I'm kidding.
Rusty. No. I take my promises very seriously. Right, to Rusty. I will never stop being sorry. Milo, okay. Now, my guy is going to get your address after this, and it is on its way to you. And by the way,
yes,
just as it just so happens,
yes.
I didn't plan this, but if you are at home and you have a copy of the New York Times bestselling Dangerous by Milo Yiannopouios,
yes,
available at all good bookstores, and I want to tell you about that in just a second because we've had a little run-in with Barnes & Noble that you'll be very excited to hear about. If you open it and you discover that the end papers are yellow, you have acquired something that we didn't actually intend to ship out, and I don't know how it made it out to customers, but this is the pre-first edition. This is the digital proof from the publishers that they sent me to make sure that I was happy with the cover, which of course, I mean, So this is even rarer than the first edition. So you are getting a signed pre-first edition with more contrition, more apologies, and more sorrow. My God, I suck.
You do not.
But this is yours.
Yes.
And I will fire some minions. But just as soon as they get back from FedEx, sending this to you.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine. As long as you fire one. Purdy, if you get rid of that guy, I'd be happy with that.
Oh, you know Purdy?
Yes.
Oh well, yeah. No, I mean, you see, the problem with Purdy is he doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep enough, and he makes me look bad. So the reason I'm firing Purdy is he works harder than me.
Well, yeah, and for folks that know, Purdy is a guy he's doing your media. He did stuff for me a long time ago. This is a guy that walked across America. Did he ever tell you that story?
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I have seen the stick that he used to walk across the country that is now in two pieces, rent asunder by the travails of his cross-country marathon. Matthew Purdy is one of the great unsung heroes of the conservative movement in this country.
Yes, he is.
I'm very proud to say he's now my right-hand man. So if you ever see me out in New York or in LA or in Miami doing something despicable and disreputable and mischievous, chances are Matt Purdy is behind a camera somewhere capturing it for posterity. So if you ever get to meet the guy, he's a real hero.
All right, let's do
I
something.
won't fire him.
Okay, let's do something that you like, and that is let's not talk about anybody else but you now. Is that
God.
okay? First of all, I didn't.
All this introductory preamble. Can we please talk about my book?
Yeah, well, I did not get to do the proper introduction. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, he is a homophobe, an anti-Semite. He is the leader of the alt-right movement, Milo Yiannopouios. Is that pretty much the whole list of stuff that they call you that you hate?
No, it's not even close. It's not even close.
No.
You missed transphobe, sexist, racist. You missed white supremacist, white nationalist, bigot, bully, inciter, harasser, abuser. It's like bingo. I think that I am only no. I actually have upstairs here. I have like a bingo card, and the president, Donald Trump, Daddy, and I are neck and neck in social justice bingo. I think I've got one to go and he's got one to go. I'll have to remind myself which they are and put it on Facebook later.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I saw you call him Daddy, Donald Trump.
Of course.
Does he like that?
Oh, everybody likes being called Daddy. Wouldn't you like being called Daddy?
I got a lot of respect for you, Milo. I'm not sure if I want to be your daddy. No offense.
Changing the subject.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm not saying you want to be called Daddy by me, but I can tell you like being called Daddy.
Yeah, okay. As I'm looking
that,
at,
ladies and gentlemen, is the sign of an older gentleman in deep discomfort.
I can take it. I can take it. I'm a manly man. Well, but
me too. That's how I got the. Never mind.
That's how you got in trouble last time on a different podcast. So don't do that.
No. Well, as Father Michael says, God won't put anything in front of you can't take.
Okay, it's funny that you bring. Okay, let's go there just for a second because a lot of, and we'll do it quickly because it's in the book. It's in the book. And by the way, the name of the book, we've got it here handy. Yes, there you go. It's Dangerous by Milo Yiannopouios.
I've got it handy. You don't because I didn't send you one, but I will. I promise.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have a picture of it. But, okay, so why is it that, okay, I mean, you talk about that one of your first experiences was with a priest. Is that true?
Yes, it's true because I wrote it in the book.
I wrote a whole bunch of stuff in my book, too, and half of it's real.
Oh, well. Well, we have very different approaches to literature and biography.
Yes.
No, it's not true because it's in my book. It's in my book because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something that I spoke about loosely and incautiously. I said something I didn't quite intend. It sort of tumbled out my mouth on a late night live stream. And I'm a free speech fundamentalist. I believe that people should be able to say whatever they want, but that does come with consequences. And I suffered some of those consequences myself, which was perfectly reasonable and proper. So what did happen afterwards, though, was a great moment in American culture. It's a perfect example of why I love this country so much, of why it's the best country in the world. The American people are so forgiving. If you offer up a sincere account of what you did, apologize for what you got wrong, defend what you did right, and give a nuanced and serious explanation, journalists won't pay any attention, but people at home do. Okay. And if they understand that something tumbled out of your mouth that you did not intend, they're very willing to forgive you. And they're particularly willing to forgive you if, by and large, the majority of what you do is sound and they support you and they're entertained by you, educated by you, and challenged by you. And I think my career has been, so far in America, although it's been short, has been quite spectacular. And it has been a procession of education, entertainment, enlightenment, and provocation. And people enjoy that. And I think they were very understanding that these late night live streams, you've done them as many of them as I have, probably dozens more. You've had 3, 4, 6 gin and tonics. You're shooting the SHI, whatever.
Yes.
And things tumble out of your mouth half-formed that you don't quite intend.
I watched the video stream. It didn't seem like you were really serious, and certainly it wasn't a serious political forum.
I mean, a joke. I think I said something like, if it hadn't been for Father Michael, I wouldn't give nearly such good head. If that's worth destroying someone, if that's worth destroying a gay guy's career over, I think it says more about homophobia in the Republican Party than it does about my jokes. Okay. But there was something else I said about relationships between older men and younger boys, which I didn't really mean in the way that it came out. And that's why I resigned from Breitbart, and I think everything happened that people remember and know about.
That was obviously a very bad time for you. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you noticed, but I reached out and actually tried to hire you, get you a job at your lowest point. I don't know if you knew that or not. And how did you handle things?
I only found out that you'd done that later, and I was very moved by it. And it's one of the reasons I was being so amusingly but sincerely effusive about my apology earlier on in taking such a while to get on your show, because you were one of the people who reached out to me and I think saw what was happening, which was, somebody who gives 7 hours of interviews a day, who speaks for a living, who is on the phone morning, noon, and night. You know what? Occasionally you say something you don't mean, and sometimes you don't catch it at the time. And I think you recognize that, and I was very grateful for that. I hadn't had the opportunity before this show to say thank you, so I will now.
Well,
I'm grateful.
Listen, we all make mistakes, but I've got a number of friends. One of them is one of the manliest men I know. One of the manliest men I used to know was Bruce Jenner, but what do I know? But this guy's one of the manliest men, and he loved.
Gotta hand it to getting off a manslaughter charge with a pair of fake tits. It's ingenious.
We'll talk about that in a second. I do want to talk about trans stuff. That's a big story today too. But
you should, because I have a lot to say about that.
Okay, good.
I have a lot to say.
I want to get into it. But my friend is one of the manliest men, and he absolutely loves you and thinks that you're one of the great spokespeople for the movement of conservatism and of America.
This is an unusual thing that I have noticed, but it holds almost universally true. I seem to have really masculine, in some cases fratty, in some cases just older, masculine, very heterosexual audiences. I think what they like about me is that although I might be flamboyantly gay on occasion, even most of the time, I think they recognize that I'm doing it for effect. They recognize I'm doing it to make a point, which is that identity politics, this underpinning idea of the left that you must vote with your body parts, vote with your skin color, vote with your sexual orientation, is a load of old hooey. And I can be a flamboyantly gay man with a taste for, dark-skinned gentlemen, be a gay Jew, Brit, all these things that normally would point me in the direction of the Democrats, and still believe in low taxes and still love the Bible and still love guns. And I think that people enjoy that. And they, something else that people write to me all the time, and is very moving to me, my cold, dark, bitter heart occasionally does get moved by emails from people who say, you have made me realize more than 30 years of GLAAD and Stonewall and all these hectoring, bullying, nannying far-left gay charities who want to tell me what I can say and what jokes I can make. You have shown me that actually, maybe if my son turned out gay, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Yeah. And I get emails from parents who say, I wish my son could find a boyfriend like you. To which I can only reply, doesn't everyone, darling? But,
Thank you.
But to be serious for a second, and to step away from just complimenting myself, which is a
pastime.
For me. It's really very rewarding, and it means something to me, and it is a rare moment of sincerity and like emotional emotion, just human emotion, when someone writes to me and says, I never saw anybody like you on TV before, and I remain a Christian like you, but I also am into men like you, and I didn't think there'd be anybody else out there like me, brave enough to battle the left and say that just because I'm gay doesn't mean I have to sign up to the crazy agenda that's being forced down my throats, so to speak, by Hollywood, by professors, and by the media. And I think I think by being a walking refutation, just by existing, like the president, to be honest, a walking refutation of the central tenets, these two undergirding pillars of progressive thought. One, political correctness, and two, identity politics. By just by blowing them up just by existing. And I think also my tenacity. I mean, I will tell you in a minute some of the hurdles I had to go through to get this thing out there in the wild. To produce, to go from a Word document, I've written a book, to actually get it shipping on Amazon in its hundreds of thousands as a conservative is not an easy task. And particularly with all the things that happened to me. I think people also admire my tenacity, my doggedness. You know, the fact that I have bad days like I did in February. I dust myself off and I come back 10 times stronger.
How hard was it when you? I mean, you must have thought you lost everything. Is that what went through your mind, or was it? It's no big deal. You're tough. Honestly,
I'm very tough, so I'm not going to lie and say that I had the reaction that perhaps most people would have had. I think what happened in February would have crushed most people. They would never have recovered from it. I obviously have some personal qualities that make me very resilient. But what I said to a reporter who called me 2 days later, and I didn't really pay attention to my phone for weeks because I was like, there's going to be nice messages from nice people, and I'll catch up in a few months, and there's going to be a load of whatever. But a reporter called me, and I just picked it up out of the blue, and he said, "So what are you going to do with your life now your journalistic and media career is over?"
What?
And I said, "Am I allowed to swear on your show?"
Sure. Be careful about cover your ears.
Only because I want to quote myself accurately.
Okay.
And I said, "You mother."
Yeah.
There we go. See, we got it. Let me tell you something. You want to take out Milo Yiannopouios, you better make sure that you cut up my corpse into small pieces, machine gun the parts, ship them to the four corners of the earth, and bury them so deep they'll never be found. Because unless you leave me that way, I am coming back, and I'm coming back for you. And I'm coming back 10 times stronger than I was when you thought you took me out. Then I hung up the phone on him. And that journalist, 2 months ago, was forced to write a story about my book reaching the New York Times. Sorry, not 2 months, 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
I noticed his byline on a story acknowledging that I had reached number 2 in the New York Times best-selling hardcover fiction and e-fiction combined. So I'm very happy about the fact that I was born a bit broken and a bit wrong, and I seem to be missing some things that other human beings have. I don't really get afraid. I don't get offended. I don't feel fear or shame or guilt. I just have a couple of really strong moral principles that I believe that people should be able to do, say, and be whatever the hell they want. And I believe in fact, reason, and logic. So I'm a classical liberal, and I believe in the Enlightenment. I believe in Enlightenment values. Now, these days, that makes me a conservative. These days, that makes me a Republican. These days, that makes me a Trump supporter. It might not have done so, but just standing for reason and logic and truth, it appears to me, particularly in America, as a visitor from Europe, coming here and looking at these shores and imagining, by the way, that this country was going to be the land of the free, home of the brave, the place you could be, do, and say anything, walk down the street dressed however you want. And it turns out, oh, actually, you wear a MAGA hat, you're going to get beaten to within an inch of your life. In America? In America.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, didn't a guy got beat like right after your party, right? Your book release party.
Yes, and there's a Trump-supporting plastic surgeon who offered not only to reduce the size of Laura Loomer's nose, I understand, the Jewish reporter who wanted a nose job.
She's the one that jumped on the stage that during the
Trump thing. Yeah, he's giving her a free nose job. God love her. But he's also offered to give this guy free reconstructive surgery. I can't imagine progressives doing the same thing.
No.
But to understand how 30 years of lies and distortions and misrepresentations in the media have affected how conservatives can live their lives, can express their ideas, can do, just be themselves, right? Is extraordinary. It's really remarkable. And I don't want to give too much credit to these old school Republicans who, in my view, achieved very little in the culture wars in the 30 years before Milo. But I will say this, getting a conservative book to market isn't easy. And, Simon & Schuster caved to public pressure from social justice warriors. It had nothing really to do with the remarks I made. It just gave them an excuse they needed to dump the book, Caved to
But don't they care more about money? I mean, it was obvious this was going to be a moneymaker.
No, I think the issue is this, right? They probably did a calculation, and they said that if we keep this guy on, we're going to lose so much money elsewhere in our business that even if his book is a #1 bestseller for 16 weeks, we're going to lose money overall. Well, the problem is, if they had made that calculation, they shouldn't have signed a deal with me. But they did sign a deal with me, so they have to pay. They have to see it through, and that's why I'm suing them.
Is this is it good for? Are you self-published, or did somebody else do it? Because self-publishing, if you can get the books out, I mean, you get to keep more of the money, don't you?
Well, it's a sort of hybrid. Journalists like to describe Dangerous as self-published because they use it to sort of demean they use it to sort of insinuate that it's some kind of cheap on-demand paperback. You
Right.
know?
You
But
mean
in
like
actual
my book, how to 7 ways to win political debates to your liberal family and friends and still keep them as family and friends. You mean like that cheap book? Yeah. Same thing.
I would never describe a work of your stature in that way.
Well,
But-
it's not a 300 page turner like yours.
No, but I mean, what they're trying to do is to suggest that you've signed up for some online website, and that when somebody buys your book, they print it and they ship it,
Right.
just like a T-shirt from a self-published on-demand place.
Right.
Well, I invested $3 million in a publishing imprint, which is going
$3 million? You have $3 million?
Well, I raised $12 million for Milo Inc., which was quite widely reported.
$12 million?
Yes,
Dude.
but if Simon & Schuster hadn't done what they did, I could have raised 50 and on much better terms, which is another reason I'm suing them. But the point is that I invested $3 million in a new publishing imprint, Dangerous Books, which is the publisher of Dangerous. Who guessed it? And this is the imprint on the first page, just to remind you that this is a new publishing house. This is not me, getting my words out in whatever format I can as cheaply as I can to anyone who will read them. This is a fully fledged publishing operation distributed by all of the usual distributors like Ingram. We work with Thomson Shaw, we work with Salem, we work with all these different great people.
Barnes and Noble.
Well, let's talk about Barnes and Noble. Happy. When does this show go out?
We're on live, baby.
We're live?
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Oh God, I should have dressed differently. No, I'm kidding. Oh, I'm so happy. Well, in that case, I'm glad I'm live. Nobody told me we were live. I wouldn't have wandered in here with coffee and chat if we were live.
We're live, man.
So listen, well,
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that, because that means that I can exclusively tell your viewers and listeners that we have just struck today a deal with Barnes & Noble, which had previously refused to stock my book in stores, had it on special order only. The button that employees used to order the book was disabled for staff, so you couldn't order the book if you.
Are you serious?
Oh yes.
Wow.
And there's a memo that went out internally, which we obtained, because there are plenty of people who work for Barnes & Noble who are not crazy liberals, and many of them like me a lot. They send me a lot of stuff. So if you're from Barnes & Noble and you're listening, you've got off like me. We told them about some of the stuff we had. I think some people know we published some videos of people trying to order my book in Barnes & Noble stores and employees befuddled about how they couldn't order it.
Yeah.
Well, happy to say all of that is behind us, and today Barnes & Noble has agreed to stock Dangerous in all 630 of its stores in the United States in the current affairs section. It will be stocking it just like it would any other New York Times bestseller, and we're very happy about that. We are grateful for their good sense as late in the day as it came, and we're looking forward to working together with them, not just on this book, but on future books from the publishing house. And we have lots of big plans for other authors and for, of course, my later books. I think my next
That's
book,
what I was going to ask you, is now that you're going to be a big-time publisher. You're like J. Jonah Jameson now from the Spidey comics. You're going to be like this big publisher.
Myself as digital media citizen Kane, but
Yes.
I can't take credit for that. Forbes called me that.
So are you looking for new authors?
Well, of course, darling. You should send us some manuscripts. All of my favorite quotes about myself come from other people, and you can see some of them when, if there may be one or two of your audience who are shamelessly yet to order a copy of Dangerous.
Well, Keith just said, matter of fact, I just finished Dangerous. I will definitely read it again. He loves the book.
Wonderful. Well, buy it again and read the fresh copy. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. When you open Dangerous, you will see a variety of disobliging quotes about me from the media. Do I have my glasses somewhere? No. So you will see, for instance, the most hated man on the internet by The Nation. Milo Yiannopouios doesn't have... Oh, thank you, Angel. You see, very professional operation here.
Yes.
Milo Yiannopouios doesn't have feelings, New York Times Magazine. The ultimate troll, terrifying by Fusion. The Kanye West of journalism, Red Alert Politics. I'm not sure if that was a compliment or not.
Is that a good or bad?
Bullying, bleach blonde tantrum starter by the Daily Beast, which I imagine they thought was an insult, but I think is wonderful. So, so all the worst things that these terrible left-wing losers say about me, I use as marketing. They don't seem to realize what they do. Where did he come from, says the BBC. completely effing exhausting GQ Australia, a young, gay, alive Christopher Hitchens, which of course Bill Maher called me on Real Time. I'm back on Real Time, by the way, in August, so you should look forward to that. It's really irritating that he can say hateful things by a magazine called The Stranger, which apparently is utterly unacquainted with that minor piece of American legislation known to you and me as the First Amendment. Anyway,
does this bother you at all? I mean, be honest here. I know you don't. You come off as flamboyant and stuff, but you're not doing that here right now. It seems like you and me were just talking. I appreciate that.
No, I am a showman and a performer and a provocateur on the stage. But when I'm having a conversation among equals, among people that I respect and people who I watch even when I'm not on their shows, which is the highest compliment I can pay you, I try to honestly explain what it is that I'm doing, and the reason for that is I'm not afraid if they learn my secrets. I'm not afraid if the left knows what it is that I'm up to, because I know they're not going to beat me anyway.
Right.
There are a couple of easy ways to beat Milo Yiannopouios, and it's stop telling lies to the public about campus rape culture, the wage gap, straight white males, all this awful social justice politics stuff. Stop lying to people. Stop name calling. Stop silencing conservatives on college campuses. Stop calling people white supremacists just because you don't like their opinions. Well, the left is never going to do any of those things. So I'm perfectly happy to explain to them, as I do in the book, how to beat me if you really want to. I'm safe in the knowledge that they never will. But the purpose of the book is not really to explain to liberals how to beat me, because they already know, they just don't want to do it. The purpose of the book is to inspire a new generation of Milos, because people like you have been valiantly fighting in an older generation of conservatives for decades, and you're one of the few conservative commentators who understands the importance of fighting in culture and not just in politics, of how Hollywood and the media and in universities in particular makes such a big difference to how we come to understand ourselves and the world around us. Most conservatives don't get it. They put, they pour hundreds of millions, it must be billions of dollars now, into these useless magazines and think tanks in Washington, D.C. I mean, it beggars, I can't even imagine. It beggars belief. I can't imagine.
It just gives those old guys jobs, right? I mean, I don't know what they do.
I don't know what they do either. They certainly don't. They haven't won anything.
No.
And in 2 years, with a couple of $1 million, look what I've accomplished on American college campuses. UC Berkeley in utter chaos. And by the way, I'm going back. Of course I'm going back.
Good.
My Troll Academy tour, which starts in September, is going to start with Berkeley Free Speech Week. I'm going to take all of the most outrageous hellraisers. I hope you can join us. You're not far away from that.
I would love to.
Most outrageous hellraisers that I can think of. I'm going to assemble all of the people the left hates the most. And it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. I'm going to get Ann Coulter. I'm going to get Alex Jones. I'm going to try to get, maybe Don Jr. I'm going to get, me, all sorts of other people.
Did you ever hear, I know you offered to Ben Shapiro. Did he ever get back to you?
He didn't, but I'm very happy to. Look, Ben and I have had our differences, but when UC Berkeley tried to derail his talk, I did the only thing that I felt was reasonable, which is stick to my principles and say, this is disgusting. Ben should be allowed to speak just like anybody else. Ben Shapiro, if you don't know, is a shorter, less successful version of me. But he should be allowed to speak anywhere he chooses, anytime he chooses, if he has been invited by a group of conservative students. And for UC Berkeley to lie and say, oh, we couldn't find an appropriate venue, give me a break.
Yeah.
And I did the only thing that I felt was appropriate, which was to stick to my principles. And some of my own employees didn't agree with me. And also, by the way, Ben Shapiro has treated some of my former colleagues at Breitbart appallingly after they effectively invented his career. But nonetheless, there were bigger principles at stake. So at the risk of irritating the people I work with and friends from previous professional entanglements, I invited him anyway. And I didn't just invite him. I invited him to speak at the keynote final speaking slot.
Yeah, you did?
He hasn't. I did. He hasn't got back to me, and I don't suppose that he will.
You really don't think he will? I mean, is your rift that big? I mean, I've known Ben since he was 16 years old. He used to send me columns when he was in high school.
Look, Ben was a child prodigy, and the problem with child prodigies is they very often are catapulted into fame a little too soon, and at a point at which they have so much attention on them in the public sphere that they forget to form a well-rounded private life. And I think Ben didn't develop some personal human characteristics that would enable him to be a more effective communicator, with the result that I think he's quite abhorrent to the left and ineffective with the middle. He's very good at rousing other conservatives because the guy's a genius. He's like a fact cannon.
Yeah.
I've never denied he could probably wipe the floor with me in a substantive, detail-oriented debate. But persuading people about values is about more than just remembering Supreme Court cases from 1976.
Right.
Persuading people is about entertainment and about all kinds of other different gifts that I have that he doesn't. And if we were to team up, I think we'd be very powerful.
I think you would too.
I don't particularly care for the guy. I don't like the way he's treated some of my friends, but the principle was far more important than my personal rift with him.
Okay.
So the invitation remains open. The final night of Berkeley Free Speech Week, I will give up my speaking slot to Ben Shapiro if he wants it, to ensure that he has a lot. And I think we have an auditorium of 1,200 people, which is larger than the audience he was going to be speaking to.
Wow. I
I will give up my final speaking slot and allow him to talk about whatever the hell he wants. He can bash Trump, he can bash me, he can do whatever he wants, because that is the point of Free Speech Week. So the invitation remains open.
All right, Milo Yiannopouios is here. Big news story, and maybe you can help me out with this because I don't get it. I had a real hard time when my friend Bruce Jenner, who I used to talk to on the phone twice a month, and hey,
He's really your friend?
yeah. And there was a story in the National Enquirer. Bruce Jenner is going to get a sex change. How funny is this? Hey, Bruce, let's talk about it. I call the house. Hi, is Bruce there? How'd you get this number? Bruce gave it to me. Don't call ever again. And then, of course, the stories are true. And now, and today, President Trump has come out and said no more transgenders. First of all, are there that many trans people and that many in the military that this is even a story? I don't get this, Milo. Do you?
No. I think no. Of course, I think it's like, was it 0.8% of applicants or whatever? Look, I gave a quote to the Washington Post, which was something along the lines of, "This is fantastic because what we should be doing to help people with this horrible condition is giving them therapy and drugs, not transition surgery, by the way, for which there is no evidence whatsoever that it makes anybody any better. Suicide rates seem to get worse, not better, and it doesn't make anyone feel any better afterwards. I think they should be encouraged to reconcile their bodies and their own perceptions of their bodies with reality. What we shouldn't be doing is hurling them onto the front lines where they're clearly going to represent a risk to their fellow soldiers. What I also added, by the way, was that this was, although it was the most controversial tweet of the year and a brilliant bit of misdirection from whatever is going on in Washington that I don't care about because it's too boring. It's a brilliant bit. I honestly don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I want to go through my whole life never knowing what TPP is. I don't know. I don't want to know. I never want to find out.
Okay.
That's for other people. That's for other people. But I wanted to find something else to say about this, and it occurs to me that although this was the most controversial tweet of the year, probably, it was really only baby steps, because if Trump really wants to dedicate himself to the efficacy and fighting fitness of the armed forces, he needs to remove women too from frontline combat units, because all of the evidence shows that they are devastating both for performance and morale. So I said the tweet was delightful, but also only baby steps.
Okay.
I did later wonder whether I had thought whether I was getting this wrong, and whether in fact we could use them like whites, from Game of Thrones, those formerly human, terrifying creatures you could hurl at the enemy so the ammo gets used up, just as a sort of horrifying cannon. I mean, can you imagine it? I mean, that Gavin McInnes got fired for writing a column saying, "Aren't we all transphobic?" Of course we are. Yeah. Can you imagine? I'm sorry, because I know he used to be your friend, so I don't mean to offend you. Well, and I don't care if I do, but really, but can you imagine 5,000 Caitlyn Jenners charging at you on the battlefield? I'd be out. Honestly.
Okay, so, but let me ask you this. Okay, you said they need doctors and they need to be talked to. Isn't that the same thing that people said about homosexuality not that long ago?
Oh God, I wouldn't have gays in the military either. Are you kidding me? Then again, if you took gays out of the military, the Navy would be screwed. I think there are obviously. There are gay people for whom it's funny. My security detail is all Navy SEALs, you see, so I love to wind them up about this. There are, I think, some really really serious fundamental differences between sexual orientation and body identity disorders. On the one hand, somebody has a condition or a predisposition or a sexuality that means that they're attracted to people of the same sex. Okay, there's no reason to suppose that that has anything in common, anything whatsoever, psychologically, to do with somebody who believes that they were born into the wrong body. They're completely different conditions, if you like.
Okay.
And yeah, people did used to say that being gay was a sort of disease and that it could be cured. Well, people have said that about all sorts of things. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And we've had this quirk of history where people with any kind of sexual deviance have been bracketed together in the LGBTQIA apostrophe asterisk blah, 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 whatever it is today group, because they were dissident identities. But the truth is that none of them have anything to do with one another, and none of them particularly have each other's best interests at heart.
They don't even like each other, right?
Gays and lesbians hate each other. Are you kidding me? I mean, we let them in our bars because they drink so much. They keep I mean, we have figures to maintain, so we let the dykes in our bars to keep them solvent. But lesbians don't let us in their bars.
They don't?
No, they don't have men. They don't have men through. You think I'm kidding? They don't have men through the doors. Complete double standards. Yet again, more female privilege.
I did not know that. There's another thing I didn't know.
It's true. You go to a lesbian bar and try and find a dude. You go to a gay bar, it's full of women. Anyway, the point is that this LGBT thing was a sort of, it's a weird historical anachronism. It's like a skeuomorphic feature of activism from the past, from people when there were tiny groups of these little people who wanted to club together, seem like a larger group than they were for the purposes of lobbying for rights.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have all the rights they need now. And the truth is now coming out that gays and lesbians don't like each other very much.
Do you think that the gay and lesbian clubs in high schools, is that something that is important, or do you think that that is more political correctness gone amok?
There are gay and lesbian clubs in high schools?
Oh, in my daughter's high school, it's the biggest club in school.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Take her out of school. Homeschool her. This is not compassionate social justice. This is political indoctrination. And what we do know is what science tells us. And no scientist disagrees with this, by the way. This is not some crackpot right-wing craziness. Sexual development is a complex mixture of nature and of nurture. Now, some people seem to be born with genetic predispositions towards certain kinds of sexual behavior. That, sex with men, sex with women, sex with potted plants, whatever. Mm-hmm. Foot fetishes. But in your environment, how you grow up and what you're surrounded by, and the messages that you're sent while you're growing up, play a significant role in how your sexuality chooses to express itself. And I'm speaking in slightly abstract language.
Do you think? Okay, let me ask you about you, if you don't mind. Let me ask you about you. Do you think that your proclivity is because of being with a priest at a young age? Did something happen, or do you think you were just born that way?
I don't think it was the priests. I think I just wanted to piss off my mom. No, I did. I had girlfriends at the time, and I distinctly look. I'm not saying that I'm a typical case for anyone. Okay, I think I was one of those people where it was like mostly nurture and a little bit nature. Okay. I don't for a second think that I'm typical of anyone in any respect. Okay. But at least acknowledge my existence and allow it, if you're listening to this, to suggest to you the possibility that it isn't as simple as the gay lobby has been telling you. The born this way philosophy was an invention of the 80s. It's not science, it's marketing. And the reason that gay people tell you they were born this way, and this is extended to the trans lobby too, is that in the 1980s and 1990s, the religious right was saying, love the sinner, hate the sin. What they were telling people to do is abstain from behavior that God abhors, repent for your lustful thoughts, and live a good life. Well, what gay people said in response was, no, I was born this way. It's what I am. The gay lobby came up with this clever idea, which is, what if we're like women or blacks, and we have no choice over what we are. And this gave rise to the search for the gay gene. Now it turns out that there was some truth to it, but it wasn't the whole truth. So you get Lady Gaga songs born this way, and you get the, some people are born gay, get over it, from gay charities. But it is at best a horrendous oversimplification of the facts. And I remember from my own experiences, there certainly being an element of choice, certainly being a point at which I could, if I had wanted to, had sex with more girls or more boys. Now, as it happens, I'm sort of stuck in a rut at this point, and I think if I went straight, it would probably finish my career. But I think once your frontal lobes are formed at 18, 20 years old, you pretty much get, you're on a path.
Right. Can I ask you something else about your background, because it's in your book too, and I find it fascinating, and maybe you can help people, because I know that the book Atlas Shrugged was important to you, but you got into drugs and sex and parties, and it sounds like you had a pretty crazy upbringing.
Well, I said sex and parties in the book. The third noun was entirely of your own invention, but you're reading between the lines, and that's okay.
Okay. How did you change?
I've had the odd aspirin.
How did you get out of that? Is that something that was hard for you, or was that just you just kind of grew up and kind of got out of that?
Well, the answer is that I'm really, really good looking and really, really intelligent. And I realized late into my 20s that I was utterly wasting gifts that, as a Catholic, I believed that God had given me. I always felt like I was being called upon to do something better than I was doing. And I got sucked into a very hedonistic and destructive lifestyle. I wasn't particularly respectful or honest to some of the people in my orbit. I wasn't a particularly good person, really, I guess. I think my core political beliefs were fundamentally the same. But as a human being, I don't think I was living a particularly virtuous life. Now, it happened approaching 30. I was getting to 30, and I was living the same dependent life I had lived forever, really. I had gone from depending on my parents, one of whom was very wealthy and the other one wasn't, but I got money from both of them, straight into total financial dependence on an older man. And I was of age, I was 18, 19, but he was 10 years older. He was a doctor. And, we started off as property developers together, and then he trained to be a doctor. So throughout the relationship, he had a lot of money and he financed everything. And I sort of turned around at 27. I was hoping initially to die at 27 because I wanted to join the club with Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse and all the rest.
Did you really? I mean, you really felt that?
No, of course. But then I realized two things. One, you have to actually achieve something before you die at 27, or what's the point?
Right.
And two, suddenly one day I woke up and I was 28, and there was no point worrying about it anymore anyway. And I realized, I'd been lying about my age for so long, it was difficult to remember by that point. But I did find a birth certificate. Damn, yeah, you are. But I realized something, and it was something that people have been telling me my whole life, which is, why don't you sit down, stop doing this, and make something of yourself? And I suppose I felt a little shame and a little guilt and a little pause at being nearly 30 and having nothing to my name other than a vast collection of physical things that somebody else had bought me. And I had nothing really to show for my life. And I thought, well, you know what? I could die at 60. I'm halfway through my life and I've done nothing. I dropped out of college twice. I spent my entire life in the dogged pursuit of pleasure and self-indulgence. What am I going to do about it? So I started working harder. I was a journalist for a long time, but really just book reviews and silly throwaway things that enabled me. That was really it wrapped itself around my social life.
Right.
I don't talk about a lot about this in the book, by the way, because I think this is a book for me to write later in my life. This book is about the last couple of years. But I do think it's, at some point I'll probably get all this down.
And it is important. Let me ask you something else. I know we're running short of time here, and you've given us a lot of time, and I sure appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to stay as long as you like. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you, Milo. I appreciate it. You did not. You mentioned Andrew Breitbart, but you never got a chance to meet him. He was a dear friend of mine.
Never did.
And was he an inspiration? I know you worked for Breitbart, but was he an inspiration? I know he would have loved what you're doing. I mean, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. But
I do. People are very kind about the comparisons, and I don't feel in any way whatsoever qualified or able, or I don't think it's appropriate for me to comment on comparisons between the two of us. All I'll say is that
you could say if he was an inspiration.
Well, occasionally cliches occur to you, and there's really no way of expressing it better than someone has done before, and there's no point reinventing the wheel. And I do feel as though I'm standing on the shoulders of a giant, in a sense, with my career, simply because, and really it boils down to one essential observation. And in fact, in many cases, people that we admire in history, we admire for all sorts of reasons, and we love interesting things about their biographies. We love how they dressed, how they spoke, how witty they were. But ultimately, it all boils down to one remark or observation or insight. And for him, it was that politics is downstream from culture. And that if you really want to win people over, you have to talk to them about the things that really matter to them in culture. And that's love, sex, death, money. It's not, trans-Pacific partnerships,
which you said you didn't know what meant, but you did.
I know what it means, really. I like to pretend I don't.
Yes.
Because the ingenue thing works so well. I don't know. I've got about 3 years before the ingenue thing is going to be a bit grim because I'm 35. I can still just about pull it off.
You're pulling it off. All right, let me ask you something else then.
Go
ahead.
Just a Breitbart thing.
Yes.
I from him and from his disciples at Breitbart, and in particular. Well, the two people really that made me, so they're responsible for all this. If you hate me, here's who to gun for. One of them, of course, is the great Steve Bannon, who is one of the most extraordinary political operatives, probably the greatest and most remarkably effective political operative of his generation, the most unlikely hero of the conservative movement, and somebody who has received more unfair press attention than anyone that I can think of in the history of our...
He's not Darth Vader, right?
No, I mean, this is the guy who oversaw an organization. This is the anti-Semite who oversaw an organization comprised almost entirely of Jews. This is the homophobe who hired me.
Right.
Is the racist who hired Raheem Kassam, then the clues in the name, at Breitbart London. Right. Whose secretary is black and who blah blah blah. I mean, just goes. It's so boring even to refute it all.
Yes.
But Steve is like a force of nature and absolutely politically brilliant.
Not a good shaver, though. Not a good shaver.
Well,
am I right?
There are some people who transcend aesthetics.
Yes.
And he has, let's just say he has a look all his own.
Yes,
and he made me realize that politics did matter and that I should apply my gifts to making a difference in the American political sphere. The person who made me effective at it, the person who gave me, who helped me to hone the abilities and skills that I now possess, and that I now wield so threateningly, powerfully, and dangerously. I've never missed an opportunity. I learned from Ann Coulter. I learned from the best. She never misses an opportunity. You'll hear her. She'll go on the radio and she'll say, "Oh, hi, Anne. How are you?" She'll say, "Great. My book's number 2."
She's the best. I love her.
I love her. I live and die by everything that tumbles out of her mouth. But the other person who really helped me to hone my skills is Alex Marlowe, who is this mysterious figure who occasionally pops up in 30 under 30 power lists and whatever. Although I think he's 30 now. Who occasionally pops up in these lists of shadowy, powerful figures who nobody really knows very much about, because he's what you would have called, I think, in the court of Louis XIV or XV in France, an éminence grise. He's the silent power behind the throne who is never seen, but through whom all decisions flow and from whom all great insights come. And Alex Marlowe's single-handed transformation of the site that Andrew founded into the most influential news source in America inside half a decade, turned it into the website that elected Donald Trump. And lots of other conservatives will say, well, that's very arrogant and overblown, all the rest of it. But let's face it.
It's true.
There were 7 of us who made Donald Trump happen, who knew he was going to win from the moment he announced. And it was Drudge, Marlowe, Coulter, me, and a couple of others of us. Right?
I picked it 4 years ago, and you're right. And you know what? And also, I was there when Andrew Breitbart had one computer. You know, I was there. He did it out of Andrew Breitbart did it out of his basement with one computer, and to watch this thing grow like it has been nothing but shocking.
The success of that is single-handedly down to Alex Marlow, who has the greatest journalistic instincts of anybody living in our profession today, with the possible exception of the president. And so, you know, when I was at Breitbart, he was a great mentor to me, and he taught me most of what I know about being a great journalist.
Is there anything that you could teach people that want to be more outgoing, want to do better online? I mean, it's so hard to get an audience, and you've done so well at that. I mean, do I have to be flamboyant? Do I got to all of a sudden change and, oh, Milo, you're so attractive? I mean, do I need to change to get an audience?
You don't got to be gay.
Okay.
There's a chapter in my book, which of course you'll know by now, although you'll know even better when we send you the copy.
I've already got the Kindle, man. I paid the money. Oh gosh, I feel so bad. You are so fired, Matthew Purdy. There's a chapter in, I'm just kidding. It's not his fault. It's way below his pay grade. Of course.
But there is a chapter in my book, How to Be a Dangerous Faggot. Even if you're not gay. The original title of this was, and you don't even have to suck a. Anyway,
thank you. Thank you.
You see how I know when to go out and I know when to stay.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
I'm trying. I think I have spelt out all of the words that I was told I wasn't allowed to say, which I don't know if that's allowed, but it's at least an improvement.
No, you're doing fine. Yes.
You know what I really wanted to do is at least I hadn't faked. Yeah. In British journalism, by the way, in British newsrooms. The C word, which is very offensive in America, we use like every third word. It's like you effing C.
Really?
What the effing C is this? So I come over here, having been trained at the Daily Telegraph, which used to be a very respectable conservative newspaper, kind of like our Wall Street Journal, Washington Post-ish, maybe sort of, probably like the Wall Street Journal, but just with less of a focus on finance. That kind of stature, you know, which nonetheless was just a orgiastic C-bomb like explosion in the newsroom. And I come over to America where everybody is so earnest and upright and wears bow ties and shows up to AEI and Cato Industry, whatever. And I'm just like, oh, that guy is such a... And people, honestly, the whole room just went,
oh, my
bam.
God. Oh, holy moly.
I think that was the moment when I realized that I was never going to be accepted by the American establishment and I should stop trying. Not that I ever really did try.
Yes.
And then I focus, like our dear president, like Daddy, on actually doing something that real people cared about. Anne talks about this brilliantly in Trump We Trust. That Trump simply identified actual policies people cared about. Now, I think Anne... ludicrous for me to even presume to offer up a critique of someone, of a luminary like Ann Coulter. But if I did have something to say about that book, it would be that I think she slightly underplays the extent to which the frustration with political correctness and language policing, and what was happening on campuses and in the media and in Hollywood, contributed to this, what in sociology they call a preference cascade. Everybody had to lie and say they were a feminist when they weren't, say they agreed with this when they didn't. And I think that had a lot to do with the election, perhaps more than she grants. But she's absolutely right that the primary, thing that people voted for was immigration and the wall, stuff people actually want. And it was very obvious to me when I came. I've lost track of your question, but
as a matter of fact, in my book, Milo, I talk. Anne's in my book too. Have you ever had dinner with Anne?
She's in mine. I wanted her to have the most references out of anyone in the book, but unfortunately, I think that particular crown went to Mariah Carey.
Oh well,
but she is
I did Mariah Carey's first interview ever. How about that?
What?
I did Mariah Carey's first interview ever.
Are you kidding me?
No, I was in New York.
1990 or something?
Yeah, 1990. And what was?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'll have to tell you the whole story. She was a nobody, just some chick that came in.
Book me a ticket to Arizona because I'm taking this man to whatever the what do you eat in Arizona? Steak. It's a steakhouse kind of place, right?
Yes, we'll do Manly Steaks.
Fine.
Yes.
We'll go out for Manly Steaks and Manhattans and Old Fashions and steak, and you will regale me with tales.
I will tell you tales, but there's one about Ann Coulter.
Oh, I did. My God, I wouldn't have shown for you if I known. I'm kidding.
But Ann Coulter she does the thing. She did a thing. We were at dinner one time, and there was a guy that was invited to our dinner, and he wanted to get involved and yap, and he kept interrupting. And finally, she did something that you could have argued with the guy for 30 hours, and she did something. It took 2 seconds, and it was done. It was, she looked at him, and she goes, "And I'm done with you," and turns her back on him and never talked to him again and shut him up. Absolutely brilliant.
So wonderful. Oh, she's like a queen. She's a goddess. She's a perfect celestial being. I love her. I know. Look, I could talk to you about. Can we do an Ann Coulter special one time?
I would love that. Back? Yes.
Can we just talk about Anne?
Yes.
You know what I admire most about her? She has. I kind of recognize some of what goes on in her brain because I think I have some of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That just, you know, when you have the bit of your brain that's missing that makes you afraid of consequences, you know, and you just fight, and you fight every day, and you keep fighting, and you keep going, and no matter what they say about you, how hard they come for you, you get up the next day and you're like, let's go.
Don't you get sick of it?
She's been doing it. No, I don't.
You don't.
And neither does she. But the difference between me and her is I've been doing it for 3 years. She's been doing it for 30. She's been doing it for decades. And you have to bow down in the face of that level of that amount of resilience and fortitude. And it's only really matched, I suppose, in David Horowitz, and of the people I know personally.
Mm-hmm.
The people I've had dinner with, the people I know personally. David Horowitz has been doing this for what, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
The guys started out on the left, realized how bad they were, switched, which of course is the worst thing you can possibly do.
Don't ever switch, right? Don't do that.
No. Not in the bedroom, not in politics.
Don't do that.
I have to. Come on. What's the point of inviting me?
No, I'm with you on this one. I'm there.
No, but genders, genitalia, sexual orientations, or politics. Just be normal.
Yes.
No. I have the great honor of being the recipient of his Annie Taylor Award for Courage in Journalism, which I just found it preposterous.
You got that last week, right? I saw you with your speech.
Well, no, I did a book signing, which he so wonderfully hosted for me at the Lux Hotel in LA, but last year. At Palm Beach. That very, very fancy thing he does at the Breakers up in Palm Beach.
Oh, I'm not ever invited to that. I'm not important enough to that. You win awards there. I don't even get to go.
Well, I don't think I'd be invited if I weren't getting an award, but I did give a very funny speech. And look, everybody there, no disrespect to them because they're all lovely people, but everybody there is like 80, 90 years old. It's the donor class. You know? So I go up on stage and I start talking about how useless and pointless AEI and National Review are, and the whole room is like, You know, and I'm just like, sorry, I can hear a few pacemakers switching off in the back. And to their credit, I think I said by the end of this speech, I'm gonna have a higher body count than ISIS this week.
Oh man! Oh,
shock! The GOP donor class is gonna be half the size. Anyway, it was jokes like that. But to their great credit, and I think this is a symbol of the caliber of people that David is able to assemble. So many of them came up to me afterwards and said, "We weren't sure about you, but you were so funny, and what you're doing on campuses is so great. Good for you, and keep it up." So all I can say is my experience in America of Republicans, and even the ones that I constantly say I can't stand, whether it's the National Review, and they've been horrible to me and tried to destroy my career. They still, as awful and evil as they can sometimes be, and I do really hate them, and Trumpian conservatives are right to hate those guys because they have destroyed the party and they believe in none of the things that you believe in. They don't have the same level of petty, spiteful, vindictive meanness that you see on the progressive left. And so I hope, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with perhaps some kind of rapprochement between me and Ben Shapiro. I hope that under Trump, some kind of reunification can occur in all the different various factions of the American, conservative and libertarian right, because with what's happened to the demographics in this country as a result of Obama policies and all the rest of it. See, I can talk politics.
Yes.
What's happened in this country, imperils not just you guys, but the rest of the world, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to warn you guys about what you're doing to yourselves and how dangerous it is.
I was going to ask you, do you have a book, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I have a book out. Did I mention that?
No. What is your book?
Oh, I should tell you about it. It's really
Please,
good.
Yes.
One of the ads that we came up with, you'll be amused by this, because you know how self-effacing and modest I am.
Yes. Yes.
The ad we came up with was, and the joke is because it's such a lovely picture of me. Finally, a book you can judge by its cover.
Thank you. That's good.
Isn't that great?
I like that. There was another one I like. Your meme. It was CNN does blackmail. Milo blackmails. Yeah, that was clever. That was clever.
The world leader in blackmail. The world leader in blackmails. No, that was. Well, you should follow me on Instagram. Milo Yiannopouios. Sorry, I don't have a better name, but they wouldn't give me Milo. I think there's some chocolate milk in Malaysia or something that took Milo. Follow me on Facebook, of course, as well, because I have such a crack team looking after Facebook. They are like Jedis. I go to my own Facebook page when I wake up in the morning to find out what's happening in the world.
Nice.
And then I start commenting with people and having conversations and getting involved with everybody. I go to my own Facebook page before I go to Drudge. So just search for Milo on Facebook, you'll find me.
Okay.
And you'll get all the news about my book tour appearances. My ongoing feuds with just about everybody. By the way,
yes.
If you are just if you fancy getting a little irritated by something today, because I know it's sometimes nice to feel a little sense of self-righteous injustice and indignation.
Yes.
Righteous indignation, of course, being the name of Andrew Breitbart's autobiography. The New York Times just released their new list, and I am, of course, on the New York Times bestseller list for the third week in a row.
As you should be.
As I should be,
yes.
With just one problem.
Yes.
Just one problem. I sold more copies by thousands, by 6,000 copies, I think, than anyone else in the hardcover nonfiction.
What?
But they put me at fifth. They stuck me at fifth, just like I was last week, despite the fact that the bestseller sold 12,000 copies. The next one down sold 11, then 9, and I sold 18,000 copies of this in the last week. But they stuck me at 5. And it's just because they didn't want to give me number one, you know? And it's little things like that that make my blood boil. Because it's not just, although it is a little bit, that I'd love to be able to reprint this book with the number one New York Times bestseller. And believe me, I am going to sell so many copies of this book that if you don't give me number one New York Times, you will permanently destroy the credibility of that forever. And I'll make sure of it. I'll buy them myself. No, I won't. That's not allowed. I won't do that. But it was the little icing on the cake in a particularly difficult week when we'd had to negotiate with Barnes & Noble. We'd had to fight in so many different ways just for a fair, level playing field.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we're asking for, right? As conservatives, just a playing field. Yeah.
Just a level playing field
right.
On college campuses. Just let conservatives speak. In Hollywood, don't force your politics down throats. Taken 3, I think, was the movie. And there's Liam Neeson, guy who literally kills people on screen for a living, who, of course, off screen is some loony gun control advocate, just like Matt Damon. Get a grip, guys. But in Taken 3, there's this weird, I don't know if you've seen it, this weird injection of pro-choice abortion stuff just in the middle of the movie where he's like, you don't have to keep it. And you're like, where did that come from? In a movie where he's just supposed to be shooting up bad guys to save his daughter. And it's weird. And we're sick of it. And we're done with it.
Yeah, he can shoot at bad guys, but and that's fine. But and killing babies, hey, that's awesome.
But all we want is a level playing field, an open marketplace of ideas, as J.S. Mill envisaged in On Liberty, the ideals of classical liberalism on which this country was founded. It's the reason I came here. It's the reason I love you guys so much, and you're losing it. And it was just that last final indignity and insult a couple of hours ago, actually, just before I came on the show, when my CEO, my manager, got in touch with me and said, you're not going to like this. And I said, I already know what's coming. I said, I had good news today with the book sales numbers, because the 18,000, by the way, only covers about 60% of sales, and probably even less because we sell so many copies directly because we're an independent publisher, you know? So whatever you read about my book sales are wildly inaccurate from Publishers Weekly or whatever. Who cares, whatever. We've sold way over 100,000 of the things, and I'm very happy about it. I should have numbered them, you know, because then it's just like, well, look, I'm like, this is number 122,000. I mean, what do you want from it? I don't care what your numbers say. I know how many I printed, and I know how much money I have. Anyway, whatever. I'm not fighting that fight as well. But just for the New York Times to maliciously and spitefully and for no reason and with no explanation refuse to give me the #1 spot, and instead give it, lo and behold, to a book about bashing Trump and Bannon, you know? What's it called? The Devil's Bargain or something like that? And I'm very happy that people are reading that book because I'm in it. But I wanted this week, you know, what I wanted was the third week in the chart. I wanted to go to #1, and I wanted to say, well, you see, I was just giving the others a fighting chance. But now I have regained my rightful place. Well, the fact is, that's exactly what happened in the real world, except the New York Times has left me not at 2, not at 3, not at 4, but down at 5, despite the fact that I sold 6,000 more copies by their own vastly underestimated numbers of the book at #1. And it's just, you know, I'm not going to whinge about it. I mean, who cares, really? I don't crave the approval of liberals like most conservatives. I'm already a New York Times best-selling author, and that's something they can never take away from you. Right. So who cares? But it's just one of those little things that I'm never going to stop talking about because I find it's just one of those frustrating, illustrative little examples of the fact that you can move heaven and earth. You can have your book cancelled. You can be in the middle of lawsuits. You can spend millions setting up a publisher. You can have lies told about you. NBC News calling me a white nationalist and a white supremacist, and then finally retracting the story by the time everyone's already read it anyway. You know, I have to spend $750,000 a year on private security just so I don't die because liberals tell lies. All this stuff I have to go through just to get a book out that says free speech is good, right? Yeah. Some gay Brit who cracks black jokes. Who wants to, you know, who did a college tour, wants to release a book that people want to read, and I have to go through hell. And this week, the final little indignity, you know, that just because they can, just because they've got no one to answer to but themselves, was the New York Times saying, you know what, you did beat everybody else this week, but we're going to leave you at #5 anyway because we can. That's awful. I just found it. As I say, I don't really care that much. I mean, no one can ever take it away from you. You're a New York Times best-selling author, and ultimately it sells as many copies as it sells, and we're doing very well. But I have now an unlimited quantity of sympathy, really, for conservatives who have been at this for decades, who complain about how difficult it is to get a fair shake, publishing a book, getting on TV, and expressing their opinions in the media. Because you know what, guys? I used to laugh at you, and I was wrong. You're right. It is absolute hell. And you know how many mainstream media book reviews this book has received?
How many?
0.
You're
kidding.
kidding.
Know how many? 0. Do you know how many times I've been on broadcast or national news to promote this book? 0. They don't invite me.
Even Fox, has Fox put you on?
Even Fox won't touch me. And I don't use the word conspiracy lightly. But there is clearly a conspiracy not to cover this book. You know?
Yeah. Is there, other than buying the book, and by the way, do you have a book for sale? I mean, is there a book out there?
What do you mean?
Do you have a book that's for the people could buy?
I can't read it because I don't have my contact lenses.
Oh, there it is. Oh, Dangerous. That's
Glories of live TV. What is it? Oh my, of course. Yeah. You see, Purdy. Come and say hello, Purdy. This is Purdy. He's wearing my defund Berkeley shirt.
Hey,
come and say hi.
How's it going?
Purdy. See, what Purdy doesn't realize, I don't have my contact lenses in, so he's trying to say, don't forget to say this. This is the glories of live TV.
I was setting you up to push the book one more time.
The glories of live TV. I'm so sorry. Anyway, he's reminded me that I do have to tell you about one thing before I do go, which is National Public Radio.
Yes.
You know what happened to me at NPR?
I watched the whole interview. You were on NPR. For folks who don't know, you're on NPR, and it was almost as good of an interview as this one, but the host isn't as good.
This is better.
Yes.
Because the host is better, and because we're having more fun, and because I can spell out swear words. But
he was. Well, welcome to NPR, This is.
Oh no,
Milo
but this
Yiannopouios.
that would have been. It would have been the one. I feel so sorry for you. You're kind of like giving me desperate help and hand signs, and I've got no contact lenses, and I don't know what you're saying. Live TV is fantastic. You know, Mariah Carey always does this in her performances, where the wind machine's blowing and she's in her ear and she's saying, "I can't hear myself. What's going on? What's going on here?" And like 70,000 people are watching her scolding her tech team. She doesn't give a crap. I love her. This is where I get it from. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to ask you what the hand says because I want to talk about whatever it says on there, even if I can't read it.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do the drag queen thing and just break the fourth wall completely.
Okay.
No, but what I was going to say about NPR is this. I gave what I thought was a really substantial, serious interview that hundreds of thousands of people have now seen on my Facebook and on my YouTube, which is the other place that you should go and keep an eye on for when my tour starts again in September. It's going to be called Troll Academy. And I just felt at the end of the interview that it had gone so well that I'd messed up. Not that I'd messed up because I'd said something wrong, but I'd messed up because I'd been too reasonable and too likable, approachable, mature, sensible, and that somehow something was gonna happen to that.
So because you were honest and not crazy in their minds,
they were expecting some clownish lunatic who would be incapable of defending his positions publicly and unable to explain why he was such a profligate attention seeker. Well, I'm perfectly willing to explain why I'm such a profligate attention seeker. And I can do so not charmingly and intelligently.
Yes.
Because what they wanted to suggest was that anybody who was sympathetic to the president must be either a redneck or an idiot or a media troll, And when they didn't get that, when they instead got an eloquent, articulate, intelligent New York Times bestselling author, they did the only thing they could do in the circumstances. They nuked the interview. They never broadcast it until I shamed them into it, and they finally broadcast a portion of it a week after I ran the whole thing.
and they said that part of it was, well, it wasn't really an NPR interview, right? And I listened to it. I was like, wait a second.
Give me a break. That was a photo on my Instagram of me talking in an NPR mic.
Yes.
And the beginning of the interview is like, "Hello, I'm speaking to Milo Yiannopouios from New York's NPR studios."
Yes.
Please. And the world was, just to give a final plug to my favorite person today, aside from, of course, you, my bacon was saved because I had the inimitable, indefatigable Matt Purdy in the room with me recording the whole thing. So we dropped the entire thing on YouTube. The NPR interview they refused to broadcast because Milo Yiannopouios was, shock horror, too reasonable. So, but that would have been the only thing. And other than that, the coverage of this book has been nothing except a few trade publications trying to pretend that we're fibbing about sales numbers. And I know we're not, because I know how much I have had to pay to have these things printed. And I know how much money was coming through the door. But the book industry is so opaque and everything is so delayed, they can take months before the final numbers roll in. I know what the numbers are. And for liberal authors, they'll let it slide and they'll do the reconciliation later. For me, they will find, they try to misrepresent everything. They try to make you look like a liar. I don't need to lie.
All right, Milo, we are almost out of time. Other than buying the book, and I suggest people do it, and I bought the book. I bought the book.
And you will also look. I've signed it. And if you're just tuning in now to this broadcast and you missed my harrowing, devastated apology at the beginning of the show for standing Rusty up twice, not once, twice.
Yeah.
But but like all hot blondes, wasn't it worth waiting for in the end?
Oh yes.
It says, "To Rusty, I will never stop being sorry." And
Thank you.
This out to you tomorrow.
I appreciate that. I do. Is there anything else that we can do to help you other than buy the book?
No, because I think the book really it's $18 on Amazon. And I know that for some people that is the difference between that and another serious purchase that month, and I appreciate that enormously. I would encourage you, however, to send a message to the liberal establishment and to the politically correct elites. I would encourage you to stick two fingers up to the New York Times, who are enraged by my burgeoning book sales, because you're not supposed to get more sales in week 3. They're supposed to be going down in week 3, and my book's getting more popular, not less popular. as time goes by.
Good for you.
As people actually finally manage to get their hands on it, they're like, oh my goodness, this is great. I'm buying 3 more. This is probably, and I say this without a hint of hubris, or someone's laughing in the back. I don't say anything without a hint of hubris.
Yeah.
My producer's laughing in the background. I will say this, and I do think it's true. Since the election, since the ability that you had at the last election to vote for Donald Trump, I think that buying my book is the single greatest FU, middle finger up, to the establishment, left and right, that it's possible to make. Because this is a book that has survived against all the odds, just like Trump did. This is a book that has survived against the machinations, the dedicated machinations of the entire media and publishing elites. Imagine a book that is in its 3rd week in the New York Times bestseller list, that has sold 100,000 copies and is cruising into its second printing, the second lot of 100,000 copies, right? Without a single mainstream media review, without a single broadcast interview, and without a single mainstream media radio interview of the author. It is absolutely remarkable. And I say that with a small amount of personal pride and smugness and self-satisfaction, but also a lot of gratitude, mostly really, gratitude for the readers who have not listened to the scolds and the nannies and the pearl clutchers and the school moms, not listened to the liars of the media, not listened to the snobs in universities, not listen to the media types of all kinds and Hollywood producers and all the other people who say, oh my gosh, we can't read the book. Not listened in some cases to their own parents, because I have 13-year-old fans whose parents think I am completely beyond the pale. I get emails. I get emails sometimes. I'm like the new Playboy. I get emails sometimes from 13, 14-year-old girls who say that they have to hide my book in their house because their mum's a feminist. It's
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh. Oh, that's
Like,
awesome.
no. Isn't that great?
That's
It's like
awesome.
Madonna. It's like Madonna in the 1990s when her videos were banned from MTV. Well, I've been banned from everything, and you know what? The record's still a hit.
All right. Milo Yiannopouios, it is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, and I am so happy that you forgave me.
Of course.
Twice.
Well, hold on a second. I want to wrap the show up. I want to talk to you off the air for just a second. But everybody, and I'll just take a second. Everybody, will you please share this video? I should have pushed this more. Will you please share it, like it, let people know? Milo's a good man, and he's a guy that deserves to be heard. Let everybody hear. This has been a great interview, and I really hope that you'll share this interview. Milo, do you have a website you want people to go to?
No, I would love that. Am I allowed to post this on my YouTube? Can we do that?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Because I would love, because this has been my favorite interview all year. So I would love to share it with my audience too. So,
Well, I hope so. Thank you.
Once again, savior of my life, Matt Purdy, will be in touch with you afterwards because I would love to share this on my YouTube.
I'll hook a brother up. All right. Milo, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, we're going to talk. Hold on just for a second. Let me say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for checking us out. We do appreciate you. Also, don't forget our show brought to you by Australian Dream Arthritis Pain Relief Cream. Also by Wax RX. If you got stuff in your ears like I do, it'll help you get rid of the wax. Also, my brand new book, 7 Ways to Win Political Debates with Your Liberal Family and Friends and Still Keep Them as Family and Friends. That is at Amazon, on Kindle, on paperback, and in Audible. That's it. May God bless you. May God bless America. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and Milo here on the Rusty Humphries Rebellion.